Hello everyone, I'm Donald Davis. Welcome to the Sounds of the Mountains Storytelling Festival. I'm sorry I'm not getting to meet with you in person at Camp Bethel this year. I'm coming to you right now from our home on Ocracoke Island off the coast of North Carolina. You may hear the sound of rain in the background. I've been waiting for the rain to stop before making this video, but it's rained so far every single day in the month of February. So I'm going to go right ahead and hope that if you hear the rain, you'll just think about living on an island the way we do. When I was a little boy, I grew up right outside Waynesville, North Carolina. My daddy worked in town in the bank. My mother worked in town. She taught school, second grade at Hazelwood School. But you see, they had both grown up on farms during the Depression. So even though they had jobs in town, we lived out of town. So we could have a huge garden, chickens, a pig, a milk cow, and that way we would never starve to death even if the Depression came back. We lived in a little bungalow house. We had everything we needed, all kinds of food to eat, a house to live in. My parents had jobs in town. What else could we possibly want? Well, there was only one thing we really needed: heat in the house. That little house not only had no heat, it was totally not insulated. In the winter, if it snowed, you didn't even have to look outside to see whether it snowed, because snow would blow in around the cracks of the windows and it would be on top of the bedspread right where you were sleeping. So you see, in the wintertime, that meant we didn't live in the whole house. In the wintertime, we really lived in the kitchen. Because you see, in the kitchen, that's where we had a big wood stove that kept the kitchen so warm, and it's where my mother cooked everything. And at night, when we got ready to go to bed, my dad had even dug up 2 flint rocks from the garden. They were nice and round and smooth because they'd been tumbled by the water forever and ever and ever. And we washed off those rocks, and they would live on the back of that wood stove till they got really, really hot. And then when it was time to go to bed, my little brother Joe and I would each get a towel, and we'd wrap a hot rock up in a towel, and we'd take a hot rock to bed with us so we'd keep warm through the night. Now, in the kitchen, that's where we ate. We had a square wooden table, and everybody always sat at the same place, you know, where we'd been assigned back in the book of Genesis. My daddy sat back behind the table where he could not possibly get out to help our mama. I sat around next to the wall so nobody could sneak up behind me. To this day, I still sit with my back next to the wall. My little brother sat on the outside. He didn't know any better. And our mother had a place set at the end of the table near the stove, but she never sat down. She would stand there between the table and the stove with a hot pan in one hand and a spoon in the other hand, watching us eat and say, "Everybody got what you need? Anybody need anything else? Joe, do you need some more of this? Donald, do you need some more of that?" My daddy would say, "Lucille, sit down and eat. I ate while I was cooking. Anybody need something else? Joe, do you need something else? Donald, do you need something else? Lucille, sit down and eat. I'll eat when you all get finished." I don't think my mother ever sat down with us for a meal in her whole lifetime. Well, that kitchen table, that square wooden table, that's where my little brother and I loved to play when it was too cold and too bad to go outside in the wintertime. Sometimes we'd pull the table apart, you know, where the leaf went in the middle, and we'd climb up and down through there. But our favorite thing to do was close the table up, go in the bedroom, get an old quilt, bring it in the kitchen, spread it out over that table, let it hang down to the floor all the way around, and then under there we had a secret log cabin. Our second favorite game. We'd go in the bedroom and get an old quilt. We'd bring it in the kitchen, spread out over that table, let it hang down to the floor all the way around, and then we had a cave under there. Our third favorite game. We'd go in the bedroom and get an old blanket. We were dumb. That's the only thing we could ever think of. Well, one day we were playing under that table, and we heard our mother leave the kitchen and go into another part of the house. You know what that meant? It was safe to fight. We don't know what we were fighting about. We've just been saving it up. I think our hope was to see if someday we could start a fight while she was gone and kill each other before she got back to stop us. But we were under that table. We were kicking and scratching and pulling hair and biting and thrashing around. And all of a sudden, one of us kicked and accidentally hit one of those wooden table legs on the corner. And that table leg went crack, and the whole table turned right over in the floor. And I thought, ooh, we're in trouble. And I'm the oldest, so I'm responsible. So I went straight to my mother and told her, my little brother just broke a table. She came in the kitchen and looked at what we had done, and you could not believe what she said or the look on her face. She looked at that broken table, got a huge smile on her face, and she said, at last, we can get a new table. I thought, why didn't you tell us? We could have broken it any time you wanted us to. Well, later my dad got home that day. We took the old table, propped the leg back under it, put it out on the back porch. He kind of nailed it up, and it lived on the back porch from then on. And then we got in the car, and we went back into Waynesville to a store which you could still go to and shop to this day, Massey Furniture Company. We went inside and met Mr. Francis Massey, and he explained, my dad explained to him what we were going to do. And then my dad said to my mother, he said, Lucille, you be in charge. Why don't you look all over this store and you pick any table you would like. And while we're at it, let's just get chairs to match and go all the way. And my mother looked. And when she finally made up her mind, she came back and told Mr. Massey what she had picked out. And he said to her, Lucille, you have picked out what we call a dinette set. It was beautiful. The table, it was not wood. No. The top was this slick, gray, plastic formica. Looked like marble. The corners, were they square? No, the corners were round, and it dipped in a little bit on the side. And all around the edges was this wide, groovy, little silvery metal band that went all the way around the edge, and the legs looked like silver pipes. Yep, there were two on each corner. They started together down near the floor, and they came up, and then they separated and disappeared separately under the table. And the chairs matched the table. But the chairs, the little pipes came down beside the back. They curved out by the seat. They curved down to the floor. They went around and met in the back. My brother and I could get hold of the sides of those chairs, and we could bounce all over the kitchen. Oh, we loved that new table. Well, one night, not long after we got it, we were eating our supper together. And my mother was performing what my brother and I called food torture, where she would force us to eat against our will nasty and disgusting things no one should ever eat. We couldn't figure this out. We had all this wonderful good food that we had put up from our garden. We had fresh food from the garden in the summertime. We had canned food in the wintertime. And my mother that night was making us eat canned from the store mixed peas and carrots. I despised canned peas and carrots. You know those peas, they've been in the can so long, they're not even round anymore. They just kind of squat down and hang out on the sides. And they've been shut up in the dark so long, they're not even green the way they're supposed to green. They just faded out to the color of old monkey vomit. And the little cubed carrots are so ashamed of what's happened to them, they try to suck in on the sides and their corners turn black and gray. And the whole mess is swimming around in this greasy, gray-green looking juice that runs straight for your bread and then gets on everything else on the whole plate. I despised peas and carrots. My mother would say, well, you have to eat your peas and carrots because if you don't eat enough carrots, you can't see in the dark. I thought, you don't let me stay up in the dark. I don't need to see in the dark. Then she would say, well, you have to eat your carrots because, and I could see her lips moving, but I knew her words were coming from the depression. We don't waste food. I thought, lady, this is not food. I'd eaten everything else on my plate. I don't even remember what else we had. And I'd finished everything except the peas and carrots were still there. I had lined them up around the edge of the plate, right around the edge of that plate, because I thought if any of them want to jump overboard and kill themselves, I want them to be on the way. I'd counted them about 3 or 4 times each. I had to know how many I was dealing with. 74 of those little things. I was counting them one more time. Remember when you're about 8 years old and you're just nervous and while you're thinking your hands are just bouncing around all over the place. My hands were bouncing around up under that new table, and all of a sudden they found something I didn't know was there. They discovered the top end of one of those pipes that made the table leg. And it was open on the end, and it was hollow in there. And I thought, you could put something in there. You could put peas and carrots right in there. And the next time my mama turned around, I gathered up those peas and carrots. I can still feel the little greasy touch of those things. And I started popping those little babies in that table leg like loading a muzzle loader. You know, 8 years old, my finger was little, and I could push it back in there, put some more in, push it back in there. And pretty soon, if you got real quiet, you could hear the first one going all the way to the bottom. I put 74 in there that first time. After that, I loved peas and carrots because they were fun. You see, I could reach 2 table legs on my corner on this side, 2 on my corner on this side. I would divide the peas from the carrots into little armies, and they'd have battles. And when one of them got killed, it'd go in the table leg till they were all gone. I fed the table legs when I was 8 years old and 9 years old and 10 years. One day when I was 10 years old, I was watching for a day when nobody was in the house. Because you see, I had to pull out the chairs and turn the table around because I'd filled up the legs on my side. I had to start on the other side. Well, I would still be feeding the table legs. But when I was 12 years old, we moved to a new house. We're only moving about 3 miles away, so my daddy and my Uncle Spencer were moving us using Uncle Spencer's truck. One day they were loading up everything in the kitchen, and I was watching because I had an interest in there. All of a sudden, my Uncle Spencer, who was very mechanical, Uncle Spencer pointed to that table, and he said to my daddy, he said, Joe, look at this table. You know, I believe if we could turn it upside down and take the legs off, it would fit in the truck a lot better. I thought, no. But I couldn't say anything. I just had to watch. They picked up the table. They turned it upside down. Nothing happened. They started letting it down toward the floor. Nothing happened. They got it about that far from the floor, and they let it go kabump. That did it. Up inside those table legs, something started going deedle-deedle-deedle-deedle-deedle-deedle as years of dried up peas and carrots came running out on the upside down tabletop. My Uncle Spencer didn't have any kids. He thought that's about the cutest thing he had ever seen. he'd go over to one of those legs where they were kind of stuck, and he'd smack on that leg, bong, 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 and say, "Joe, here they come, here they come. It's like a slot machine. Look, we won again." That's when my mama got there. When she saw those peas and carrots, here came those words: "We don't waste food." She looked at me and she said, "Young man," because when she got really mad, she couldn't remember what she named me. She said, "You go get a clean container and put this perfectly good food into it. And when we get to our new house, we'll figure out what to do with it." And when we moved, in addition to our books and clothes and toys, we had 2 wide-mouth quart canning jars full of antique peas and carrots. We kept them on the counter in the kitchen at our new house. We'd go in there, my mom would say, "Well, what should we have to eat for supper tonight?" "Oh, maybe we could have some of these." No, let's save them until company comes." You want to know what finally happened? Well, I know. Instead of telling you right out, I'll give you some clues. Ready? Here we go. First clue, the Methodist Church. Second clue, summer vacation Bible school for children. Third clue, arts and crafts. Our teacher, Mrs. Sloan, told us that in Bible school we were going to do beautiful mosaic artwork. You know, where you glue things together on a piece of wood to build a picture. And she had some things like, she had some colored macaroni and some dry beans to start with. But she said, "Oh, children, we want to have beautiful artworks. And so we need buttons and we need yarn. We need all kinds of things. So when you go home tonight, look all around your house and see what you could bring tomorrow that could go in our mosaic artwork." I didn't have to look anywhere. Next morning, I started out to Bible school with a big sack of dried peas and carrots. Those peas and carrots ended up in every single piece of Bible school artwork. And everything was fine till the next Sunday when they invited the grown-ups to come see our work. That included my mama. When she recognized our peas and carrots, it felt like she was sucking the air out of the room. And then all of a sudden, here came those words: "We don't waste food." My daddy was laughing his head off. He looked at her and he said, "For once in your life, lighten up, Lucille. This is not food, it's art." And then she got tickled, and I did not even get in trouble. And do you know, that picture hung on the wall in our kitchen for years, till some little insects came along that didn't know the difference between food and art, and they ate it. And now there's nothing left but the story. I hope you will consider helping Camp Bethel safely reopen for summer camps, guests, and groups, and all kinds of events. You may donate at the link below. Thank you.
We hope the festival will be back home in person next year and need your help in getting the camp ready to reopen as soon as possible for summer camps, guest groups, and special events like the festival. Please click on the link below and make your contribution toward the work, the fun, and the fellowship that find a home at Camp Bethel. Thanks for watching, and thank you for your gift.